Dee doo dee doo doo dee doo 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 dee doo dee doo doo dee doo dee doo doo dee doo 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 dee doo dee doo doo.
Hey everybody, this is Steve Kosniewski, science fiction and horror author, and welcome to another episode of Cause and Effect. This time around, we're going to be talking about the basics of using Blogger, or Blogspot, as it's sometimes also known. So there are two major blogging sites, which is WordPress and Blogspot or Blogger. I don't know if it's like a Dostoevsky and Tolstoy or like a Beatles versus the Stones kind of thing, but I know people that swear by WordPress and hate Blogger. Personally, I despise WordPress. I hate its interface, and I find Blogger extremely useful. So that's what I use, both for my personal blog, which you're probably at right now if you're watching this, and for the group blog that I manage, which is across the board. So, as you can see from the URL, that's atbwriters.blogspot.com. So, unless you've actually bought the website and had it redirected to your Blogger account, any Blogger or Blogspot blog is going to end in that blogspot.com. Hence why I'm kind of going back and forth on the terminology I'm using. I think they like to call it Blogger now, but all the sites still end in Blogspot, so I don't really know what the point of that is. But anyway, you can see here we have a basic blog with the title, a couple of home pages, and then the blog posts start here, and we have a couple of blog posts, and then over on the side is our archive where you can go back and go through the history of our posts here. So this is basically the interface that your readers are going to see. What we're going to do now is we're going to dive in and look at some of the stuff that you would use if you were a blogger. So, as you can see up here, I am currently logged in, which you'll actually need Google Plus to be logged in for using Blogger or Blogspot. And once you have that account and you're logged in, whenever you go to any Blogger blog, this is going to appear up in the top right hand corner here. It's going to give you the options of new post, design, or sign out. And it's going to keep you signed in as long as you're signed into Google Plus, etc., etc. So we are going to get around to doing a new post, but generally, just to get into the actual Blogger interface, you're going to want to click on design here. And then we're going to go in and I'm going to show you how to do a new post from there. But if you ever just want to jump right into the new post section, this is where you would click. So I'm going to click on design, and we're going to jump in. And this is what across the board looks like when I log in. It takes us right to our overview page. So over here on the left-hand side, we have a couple of different options. The first one being new post. Just like I showed you when we were back out on the main page. So your overview, I don't really use that. Your posts, this is where you're going to look at all the existing posts. And this is pretty basic. If you look here, we have a post scheduled by our good friend Mary Fan for tomorrow morning, because that's when her post is due. And then you go back and you have all the stuff from our archives. And you can see here how many hits they've had, how many comments they've had, when they were actually posted, and so forth, and so on and so forth. And on this line, since we are a group blog, you can see who actually made each post. And obviously, for an individual blog, this is always going to be you. This is always going to be your name. The other thing you see here is we have, I guess they're not called hashtags, but they're basically like the way hashtags work in Twitter. They're your tags that you can attach to your post, and we'll get into that in a minute. But if we keep going down the line here, here's where we would have drafts. So I believe, no, Mary's has been scheduled, so it's no longer a draft. But here is where you would have things that you have not completed and saved to schedule. Oh, okay, so here's scheduled, so here's Mary's, and then here's published if you wanted to show everything, just your archives without the drafts and and the scheduled posts. There's not a big difference there. Keep on going. Pages as opposed to here, I'll just show you back on the main page. So like I said, these are all our blog posts on the left-hand side here going down. We also have 3 pages, which is our home, which shows you our blog posts, who we are, which is sort of our biographies, and our books, which is our, the books that we're trying to sell. So these pages they're kind of like permanent pages, as opposed to the way you would think of a post, as it goes up on a certain date, and then you have to dig back into the archives to find it. A page is kind of permanently there. There's really not that much difference between them. If you go to comments, this is where you can view the comments that have come up on your posts. So again, if we go back to the main page here, like if we look at our good friend Kimberly Giarratano's most recent post, and so here we have the comments. Now when we've drilled down into the page, we can see all the comments that come up. We can delete them, mark them as spam, and if you have a spam filter or comment approval in place, this is where you would manage that. Stats, this is where you can see, so this defaults to your week, and it shows you what entries, how many page views it got this week, and the sources that were driving that. So for instance, people were Googling whatever drove them to 10 of our posts, and whatever this is, I don't know. It might be Twitter, it might be something like that. You can go through now, day, week, month, and all time, so you can see how your stats look throughout the ages. Earnings, I'm not even going to bother with that. Earnings campaigns, I'm not even going to bother with, because we don't monetize our blog and we don't do any campaigns. And layout, template, and settings, I'm just going to let you know that these are here. I'm not going to drill down this deeply into this. This is basics of Blogger today for the average end user, specifically for if I have a new blogger coming on the group blog, which in fact I do, which is why I'm doing this. But suffice it to know that when you get down here into the layout and the template and the settings, this is where you can adjust things. So like we had to actually put in this, Flagstaff, and we have to determine the fonts and where the About Us goes and where you can follow by email and all basically everything that's on here. You see how everything here has a wrench and a screwdriver crossed? That's because this is my blog and I can edit it. So basically everything here that has a wrench and a screwdriver is something that I can change on Blogger. And there might be 1 or 2 things, like down here, this bottom Flagstaff where it says Blogger template, I don't have a wrench and a screwdriver because I can't do anything about this. Blogger won't let me make this go away. But everything else in here, I could adjust. I could make it, instead of black on white, I could make it white on black, or red on green, or orange on purple, and change the fonts, change all this stuff, right? So like I said, this is kind of minutia that's not really interesting to the average, blogger. So I'm not going to drill into any of this stuff. But the main thing that I am going to show you tonight is how to make a post. So this is the main thing that a blogger needs to know. Like I said, I'm doing this for one of our new bloggers, so this is the basic thing that she's going to need to get up and running here. So like I said, up at the top here you can do new post. Alternatively, you can do new post here. Either way, it doesn't matter to me. So let's go ahead and click on new post. And it's creating a new post here. Okay? So it just so happens that I have a post that is due this week on Thursday. So I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do, but I think it's going to be one of our recurring segments, which is the back jacket hack job, and I'm probably going to do something by Jay Wilburn. I haven't decided yet, but I'll decide that. I'm just using this as a tool to show you guys how to do this. So here's where you enter the title of the post. And over here, you don't want to click any of these buttons yet. You definitely don't want to push publish. You don't want to push publish until you're done and you're ready to go. And if we pushed publish right now, it would post right now, which, as you can see in our little real-time clock, is 11:20 on September 18th, 16. So that's when, again, going back to our blog posts here. So you see KGG posted this on September 15th, and it actually says here, 8 a.m. September 15th, and so on and so forth. So if we pushed publish now, which we're not going to do, it would publish as though it published now. If we clicked save, that would save it as a draft, which I showed you earlier. When we jump in here, you have your posts and your drafts. And so none of these, oh, see, there's that thing that we're working on right now. So it's considered a draft. And the reason why it's there right now is because Blogger auto-saves, I don't know, I think every minute or something. So everything we've actually done here, it's auto-saved as a draft. Now, okay, preview. Okay, we can actually push preview. And it's just going to show you what this would look like if we were to publish it now, which is blank. Okay. That I primarily use preview when I'm worried about the formatting that's going into my blog and how it's going to look compared to how I am writing, compared to how it's actually going to look. So I'll show you, for example, this is a sample sentence. Okay. When I hit, okay, so you see the way this looks here? This is, I think, like Arial 12. And then I hit preview. That's clearly not Arial 12. That's clearly our default font. Okay? So there's, basically it's just treating this as a default. I might be getting into the weeds here. But when over here, compose is I'm composing as though I'm a dummy, as though I don't know anything about HTML. Which I know very little about HTML. I do know a little bit from doing Blogger. So if I did something like bold this, which up here is your basic stuff we'll get into in a minute, but I'm bolding this, and then I'm hitting enter. Okay. Now I'm going to go to the HTML. So this is what HTML is. So you see these, this thing here is indicating that this has been bolded. This word has been bolded. And these breaks are the enters that I hit. So there's 3 enters. So this is the sort of thing that you would use preview for, is to see the difference between how it looks when you're composing it and how it's actually going to look. See, now it's bolded, but still the font's different, that sort of thing. Close would be if we were done, so obviously we're not going to do that right now. Now, as I said already, this is your compose and your HTML, which if you're not smart on HTML, you can pretty much just ignore this. But if you are, you can go in and you can drill into your actual the actual programming of how this is going to pop up here. Now, one thing I do use HTML for is if I'm going to insert a video. So for instance, later tonight I'm going to upload this video onto YouTube, and then I'm going to insert it into a post. So let's take a look at YouTube. And here is one of my old cause and effect posts here, which I believe is the last one that or maybe not, maybe 2 or 3 ago. When you go to YouTube, if you were to just click and copy the URL and jam it in there, all right, well, let's go ahead and do that. So if I copied the URL and jam it in there, and then take a look at the preview, all that's going to come up is that URL, which nobody's going to click on because people don't click on things, and nobody's going to be able to watch it, and so on and so forth. It's just there. However, if I was sharing a video, what I'd do is I'd go down here to share and go to my embed. And when you go to your embed, what this is this is the HTML language for embedding that video into your blog post. So I'm going to copy that, and this is an example of where I would go right into the HTML, because it would not work otherwise. I'll show you what happens if we did it the other way. But I'm going to paste this embed in here. And now when I go to compose, you see it's already, here's the video. So if I preview it, you can see the video's right there, and somebody can play it. You see, right from your blog post. Okay, so that's what an embed is for, and that will be one instance where you would have to actually go into the HTML and put that in there. So, for instance, if I put that embed in there without putting it in the HTML, it's just going to come up like this salad right here. Okay, so that doesn't mean anything to anybody. That's one occasion when you would use HTML. For the most part, don't worry about it. Now, like I said, over here, this is your toolbar, which you're going to be basically familiar with from Word. So we already went over, here's your bold, italic, underline, which you're probably familiar with. You also have cross out. You can change the colors of the words. And remember that, well, just bear in mind, like ours is, for instance, black on white. So if you change the color to red on white, that's fine. But you know, if you had a different format where you were like white on black or something, you don't want to change the color to black. You know, that's just basic common sense there. Okay, and then you can change the background color, so it would be sort of like it's highlighted. Over here is your fonts that are available and your font sizes that are available. So again, we could change this to, it's in our default, but again, we could change this to, I don't know, Georgia, and make it large or whatever, and then you preview it and it comes out as Georgia, blah, 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 blah. The other thing you can do is this guy over here alternates between normal headings, sample headings, and so on and so forth. So here you see how ours is set up. This is the sample sentence. This is the sample heading. It's a little extreme the way that we have it here. So that's headings. We went over all this. Okay. So here's your thing for links. Remember before I said people don't really click on links, but still, you know, there's occasions where you'll want to put in a link. So if I said you can look at my video here, then all I do is select the here or whatever, you know, whatever amount of text I want to, you know, fill out. Grab the URL. Then I would click on this link. It'll say either web address or email address. So you can put in a link to email you if you so choose. I don't really know why you'd want to do that, but basically, generally, you're going to use the web address. You're going to paste in that link there and hit OK. You say, you can look at my video here. Then when we preview it, I don't know if it's clickable in the preview. Yeah, in the preview, hyperlinks don't work, but just trust me when I say that you can click on that link and have your hyperlink that way. The other thing is pictures. So let's say I wanted to insert a picture. I'll click on this insert image here. This is going to come up. It's going to say from this blog, from the Google, blah, 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 blah. More than likely, you're going to upload it from your own computer. So I'm going to say choose files. We're going to go to our desktop, and here I'm going to grab a copy of the cover to my latest novel, Hunter of the Dead, and click open. It'll take a second to upload. Then you want to click on the picture so that it's highlighted around it, and click Add Selected. Okay? So now my picture's in here, and you'll notice that the picture is not the same size as it normally is. So here's my picture in actual size, but the picture that I uploaded is like this, okay? So when you highlight that picture, these options are going to come up. So you see here small, medium, large, extra large, and original size. These are the options for your picture. Now, if I did original size here, it might fit. Yeah, okay. So in this case, I could use original size for that picture. But sometimes you'll have a picture that's so big that it scales outside of the size of your blog post, which you don't want. So you're going to want to use one of these smaller things, or you may just want it to be button sized, so you can go all the way down to smaller, or whatever reason you want it to be whatever size. Then you can adjust whether you want it left, center, or right. You can add a caption, and the caption's actually going to be tiny. So you say, here is my caption. And the other thing, okay, so you can remove the caption. And the other thing you can do is, this is a little bit tricky, but I'm going to show you how to do it anyway. If you highlight it, and then you click on link, and then here you could put in a link, and now your picture is going to be hyperlinked just as though it were, a hyperlink to something else in the blog. But if I didn't do that, let me see. Okay. So I'm going to clear that hyperlink. Yeah, okay, so I cleared the hyperlink. I guess you have to hit link and then cancel. If I didn't put a hyperlink to some other site on this picture here, when I publish it, it's just going to come up as bigger when I click on it. So it's going to fill up the page here. It's not doing it right now because I'm in preview. Just like hyperlinks don't work, the little mini links don't work. So what would happen is it would act like a hyperlink, but all it would do is just make a big picture here. Okay? So here's videos where you can insert a video. I guess if you wanted to do that, insert a jump break. I don't really use that. Here's your alignment for your text. So again, just like we were doing here with the picture where you can go left, center, right, you can also take your text and if you so desire, do it center, justified, or whatever. You can insert a list, bullet list, quotation, remove formatting. So if I do this, you see this goes back to normal. You can also do that by clicking on your keyboard control space. That reduces it back to where it was, except for the hyperlink. I did not know that. I thought it would get rid of the hyperlink too. And then you have a spell check. Okay? So these are the basics of, putting in your stuff. Basically, it's all very easy. If you want to just if you just want to compose your blog post elsewhere, like in Word or something, just remember what I was kind of not really getting into about the HTML here before, is that you don't really want to copy and paste from Word directly into this compose here. So what I would recommend you do is, if you have created your blog post somewhere else, pull up your notepad, or you can also do this with your, if you have Outlook and you don't have your Outlook emails formatted, these will also be HTML free. So what I would do is, I would take my Word doc. So what you would do is you would take your Word doc, you would copy all the stuff from your Word docs, and then paste it here into your notepad, and then copy it and paste it into Blogger. And what that does is it clears out all the formatting from Word. So you see when I go to my HTML, there's no formatting on this because it came from Notepad. Okay? So you can just compose all this stuff and then just stick it in there, but make sure that you clear out the formatting by using Notepad first. The last couple of things to go through here is your labels. So you remember I told you earlier, when you're looking at... Okay, so you remember I showed you earlier how we have these labels, okay? and these are what show up on the blogs. And they also, when you go in here to posts, these labels or hashtags also show up here. Okay. This here is where you would use that. So you see down below here is every label that we've used previously. So normally for my posts, I normally mark them Steve, just so people know that was me. I'm not big on labels, but okay, so that was one that existed. If I wanted to use a new label on this one, so like I said, it's probably going to be one of our good friend Jay Wilburn's books that I'm making fun of this week. So I put in another label, which is Jay Wilburn. And it's separated by commas, so in this case, the label is Jay Wilburn, not Jay Wilburn. I'm not saying this right. Okay, so you see how now the labels are Steve and Jay Wilburn. Okay, and then if we preview it, the labels are Steve and Jay Wilburn. The commas are what separates that. That's what keeps it from being Steve, Jay, and Wilburn, which, you know, you've probably already intuited. So now we have 3 labels, okay? Yeah, now they're alphabetical even. So it's no longer Jay Wilburn, but Jay Wilburn is what I'm probably going to end up actually using. The other thing you have here is your schedule. So, like I said, this post is going to go up on Thursday. So, if I come down here, you schedule automatic. That's what it defaults to. So that's what I was saying before. If you hit publish, it'll just publish now. If I didn't want to default it, which I don't in this case, I would use set date and time. Here's going to come up your calendar. So I would default it for Thursday at noon, and then hit done. So right now we're scheduled. Locations, if you want to add a location. Permalink is if you want to get the permalink ahead of time, which is, you know, in case you want to use that. Or you can change the permalink if that's the sort of thing you give a shit about. I can't imagine why you would want to use that. And I would leave this alone. This is just a couple of options, a little bit down in the weeds. If, for instance, you wanted to turn off reader comments, or you could mess around with your HTML, which, like I said, that's all pretty deep in the weeds there. So now the last thing, okay, so this is the basics of how to create a blog post in Blogger and how to get in and use Blogger and all that good stuff. The last thing I'm going to show you is what to do if you fuck up. So let's set this back to automatic, and I'm actually going to do this. I'm actually going to fuck up the blog right now. What happens if you hit publish right now? Oh shit, my thing published now at 11:37 p.m. on 9/18. And if you go to the blog, it's going to reflect that too. Oh shit, this is really bad. I've blogged something that's not supposed to go out till Thursday. So now everybody else is screwed up. I'm out of order. What am I going to do about this? Easy peasy, don't worry about it. To get back to your old post, like I said, you go to Posts, and you go to Edit. The other thing you could do is, from the main page, remember how I said there's a wrench and a screwdriver for everything you can edit on here? There's also a little pencil for every post you can edit. Now, since I'm an admin for this blog, I have a pencil for every post, but I believe if you were just a writer, you would only have pencils for your posts. So KGG could not go in and edit my post or Carrie Beckworth's post or anything like that. But I can get to this same spot by clicking this pencil here. Okay? Now, how am I going to unfuck up what we just did? Very easy. Now there's something here that we did not have before, which is revert to draft. So when you click revert to draft, it goes back to your drafts. There it is, back in the drafts. If you go to the main posts, let's refresh that, because that should no longer be there. There you go. Now that's considered a draft again. And if I go back to the actual page, boom, gone. Okay? So, you don't want to accidentally publish, but if you do, that save button will be replaced by revert to draft. And I think that is everything for tonight. That's the basics of using Blogger, creating a blog post. If you have any questions or you want me to go deeper into any of that stuff I said I wasn't going to cover tonight, let me know in the comments on YouTube or my blog. And otherwise, we will see you next time. Thanks for coming out, folks.